Joining us to build on that discussion, Dr. Norman Provizer. He is a professor of political science at Metropolitan State University at Denver. So much to discuss, but let's just talk about the pulse on campus. What are students saying?
Well, you know, there are times when you wonder how much they're saying about it, because this has been going on for a while. Our student body probably has a certain orientation, which I would think is not necessarily strongly pro the president, but that's just demographics of things. So it has not really dominated things. We've had some activities, and we've actually, in political science department, for example, talking about doing some more as we're now that we're actually moving toward the impeachment part of the process, and then we get to the next part of the process, which is the removal, and that moves to the Senate.
Well, and you talk about that because it's been going on, Dr. Provizer, for so long. Is there a danger for the Democrats that it's become white noise, that nobody is really paying attention anymore?
No, I think that is absolutely, I don't think it's inevitable that that occurs, but I think you're absolutely right, that is a danger. It keeps going on and on and on, and sometimes, I think from the Democratic Party's point of view, the idea was, the thing with how did Ukraine enter into all of this?
Right.
And that gave
a country we didn't hear a whole lot about 6-7 months ago.
That's right. And how did that enter into it? Part of that was, I think, from the Democrats' point of view, it gave something concrete to all of this. It wasn't just a generic kind of abuse of power. Here's a particular thing. We actually had a phone conversation, a tape. It wasn't quite the Nixon tapes from the White House that was the key in terms of his, he was going to be impeached. He just resigned before he was impeached. So I think the idea was it gave us something concrete, but at the same time, I'm not sure it's really captured the imagination of people kind of in the middle. I mean, we know how people who are committed to one side or the other, and a lot of it, unfortunately, is partisan. Remember, with the Nixon case, that started off as partisan as well.
Well,
but it shifted over time.
You talk about the partisan side of this, and I love politics, as do you. And on these major nights over the past several weeks, I've enjoyed going home and tuning in to MSNBC and Fox on the same news day to see how they both view it. And it's almost like there was a car crash and two people saw two different things.
That's right.
And I think that's what you're touching on here about that political viewpoint and how people are seeing it.
That's right. And there's always that element. Because remember, impeachment is a political process. It's not a strict legal process. So when people are talking now, it keeps coming up, depending on who's doing the discussing, that, well, there's no crime here. Well, impeachment has nothing to do with crimes. It has nothing to do with being convicted of a crime. It has to do with a political process in which both houses of Congress are involved. The House impeaching somebody through a majority vote, and the Senate trying someone, and the Constitution uses that term, trying someone to determine whether they should be removed from office, and that's by a 2/3 vote of the senators present.
And the House vote is pretty much, we can expect what will happen. The House will vote to impeach, most likely.
It looks that way.
And then it now moves to the Senate, which is controlled by the Republican Party. Talk to me about that process and what we can expect to see. Because there have been, quite honestly, on the past couple of weeks, you tune in and it's not that exciting. Some people are saying, I watch it and I'm losing interest. Now, if it goes to the Republican side and the Senate, will there be high drama or will it be more process?
Well, I think the thing we've been talking about on the Republican side is everyone knows how vote is going to turn out. Then there's no way there will be 2/3 of the senators present voting to remove President Trump from office. I think that's, if I were a betting person, which of course I'm not, but if I were a betting person and I could get odds on the outcome of the Senate, and someone would be willing to bet that somehow they will remove, unless something dramatic, I mean incredibly dramatic, occurs. That's not about to happen. And we already have a clear indication of that with the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, essentially, I mean, if you think about this, it's very strange, saying this publicly, not a secret, coordinating what's going to occur, a trial by the Senate members, Senate members, and he's saying we're going to coordinate the trial, impeachment trial of President Trump with President Trump.
So, Dr. Provizer, let's go through this. We've got 30 seconds yet. Who's winning here? Because there are some that are saying that what the Democrats have done is nothing more than scratch at the president's base, and they're going to get them energized for the 2020 election, because if it goes as you're saying and the Republican Senate does not vote to impeach, does the president remove? Does the president get a net gain out of this?
Possibly. I mean, that is, remember, Speaker Pelosi was not really in a rush to move into the impeachment process. And that was exactly her thinking. She's the example of the Clinton administration, the movement of Republicans against him.
Yes.
It didn't really hurt Clinton in the long run, and probably maybe hurt the Republicans. So that was why there was a certain, people were leery of doing that. But at the same time, you look at the what's being talked about, and you look at some other things with impeachment, and the other side of the argument is we can't stay silent faced with this. And no one will know when the November election results are in.
Exactly. So it promises to be a very interesting 11 months ahead of us. Dr. Provizer, thank you for joining us.
Always my pleasure.
Thanks for being on Politics Unplugged and talk about an issue we are all talking about. Well, stay with us. We're talking about the potential return of gray wolves to Colorado when we come back.